Hey everybody, it's Sophia from No Love Lost 2.0, and I got Moses on today.
Yo, 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 it's your boy Moses. Whoop, 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 whoop. Party in the
So,
house.
so we're gonna get into some things. We're gonna talk about some things, different things we've seen on X and some different quotes, and we want to just give our opinions on them. So I'm gonna start it off, and I'm gonna read it to you guys, and Moses is gonna get into his bag, and we're gonna talk about it. I've tasted being the bigger person. I've tasted matching energy. I highly recommend choosing people who never make you act out of character. There's wisdom in remaining grounded. How do you feel about that, Mo?
Yo, what's up, guys? I'm back in the house. So yeah, I thought it was a great idea to, go on X and gather a lot of, screenshots of a lot of things that I found very, very um important, very useful and something that people could relate to. And I was like, since have seen so many and have read so many, I was like, you know what, let's try to compile a compilation of so many of important ones, meaningful ones, and kind of just talk about it. So, the one that you just read, um, I don't, just me being me, I don't think I've ever have done the bigger person. If I don't know, like with both, and if so, it was done, let's say like unconsciously, like just as a reaction. Um, but with this, I can see where it comes from, because it when you deal with people's personalities and you deal with a lot of people, you know, especially when you call them a friend, you you feel like they won't really do anything that will have you, like let's say react in a way where you wouldn't normally react. Like you will really believe as a friend or as a best friend or whatever the case may be, that they wouldn't do anything that will kind of, just be like out of the ordinary. But at the same time, it's not realistic to not come into disagreements with your friends, whether it's playful, whether it's anything else, or whether it's serious. I feel like if you call someone a friend or if you call someone a best friend, it's very realistic. Like that, y'all guys are going to bump heads on a lot of issues. Y'all will get mad at each other. Y'all will get frustrated, and maybe just so many things. If y'all don't, then it's based on the dynamic that you have with the person. But other than that, I feel like just in general, like yeah, you like why would you come out of character with someone you call a friend? I don't think that's very um positive, and something that should constantly be done. If so, it's something to think about.
I definitely see that viewpoint, and I feel like this: if you care about somebody, and if somebody's bringing you to that point in life, then maybe you need to assess if that person is supposed to be in your life. That doesn't mean that you have to get rid of them, but sometimes if you realize that these relationships consist of um, minute activities of arguments and little things that keep getting bigger and bigger, it sometimes makes you have to look at the relationship that you have with the person and reevaluate how to even navigate being in friendship or relation with them, because ain't nobody trying to be arguing with their friend. Like, that's the biggest. I'm big on, I'm not about to argue with my friends. I'm not about to be fighting with my friends and argue with them about minute things that really we shouldn't even be going at it. But sometimes people will take you there where you have to really go at it with them. But I don't like that. I feel like if I care about you, I shouldn't even have to feel that way about you.
Yeah, you're right. I agree. Um,
Yeah, I feel like it's okay to disagree. It's okay to not be in the same headspace, but we shouldn't disrespect each other.
yeah, and when it said that I highly recommend choosing people who never make you out of character, you know, uh, I can believe that. Um, yeah, I guess it just really depends, and it's not much that we can give in, because I guess it really depends on the situation, on the dynamic and the personality of the person, and it's various. So it's hard to judge when they're just different dynamics.
Yeah, I see that viewpoint. But I also just like, and if a person does make you get like that, that's life. That's human nature, emotion. Sometimes the emotion gets out of control and you find yourself in a situation. But I feel like as an adult, not just being an adult, as a person, you should be able to navigate your emotions in the most appropriate way. People do not hear you when you screaming, yelling, and you have nonsense or you calling some. It's like I believe in, like I always tell you, you got to stay on topic about what the issue is. If we're all over the place about an issue, how are we gonna actually sit up here and navigate? Actually having a safe space to have a friendship with. And one thing about it is, I'm not about to be arguing with my friends. I choose you guys. You choose me. I don't have to argue with you. If all we doing is arguing, I don't know if that's somebody that I probably should be in relations with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
So how would you move if you had a friend and when y'all get into arguments, they saying, shut the F up, Mo, or Mo, you pissing me the F off, or they hang up on you when they mad. What would you like, how would you handle that?
Well, number one, for the audience, that is toxic. And that is something that you should not do to people, and you should not be treated that way. I feel like, no matter what, there should not be a point where anyone feels comfortable and doing actions like that. So I think at that point, the relationship needs to be evaluated to say, and it's something that I brought up, not too long ago, is that I may love you as a partner, I may love you as a friend, but just because I love you doesn't mean that I have to accept the way you behave, the way you treat me. So it's okay to say I love you, but this, but that. It's okay to have a but, to say I love you, but I can no longer accept you behaving like this or treating me like this. And that's what the example that you just gave is not okay. You should not be cursing at your friends or calling your friend's name and hanging up the phone. That could be very disrespectful, especially if you're the type of person that you do not treat them that way, or you would never do those things to them and have never done those things to them. What makes them comfortable enough to do that to you? That's another question. Do you like boundaries? Do you like enforcing those boundaries? How's the dynamic? How do you allow them to treat you? What type of personality do they have? A lot of these things come into play.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Because it's like if you're not a person who gives that energy to somebody, you wouldn't expect your friend or somebody who say they care about you to come at you in that headspace. I feel like if you feel like you gotta attack me, we may not be as close as I thought we was because I don't attack you.
And there should only be one time that you get to attack me like that. Hello.
Oh yeah,
Let's
one
talk.
time. Then what's
Let,
gonna happen? Then what's gonna
know that
happen?
you will get cut off, because see, but that what in my opinion, for me, because that would not be done without communication. So you do that once, and I'm gonna have one conversation with you and say, listen, we are two grown adults, and we should know by now how to handle our emotions. Now, if you got something to say, or if something is bothering you, you've been my friend for how long? So you should be comfortable enough to approach me, to communicate to me what's been bothering you about me or about us or about what's going on. But in no way, shape, or form
Mhm.
don't you ever think it's okay to ever do that to me, because I have never done that to you and will never do that to you, and you know me. I have always treated you with love. I have always treated you with respect, and that's how it's always been. There's been times, yes, I've been upset at you or upset at certain situations, XYZ, but I have never communicated with you in a way where it could be seen as toxic. But the way that you just have expressed yourself is unacceptable, and I do not accept that from nobody, and that's a boundary of mine. Because again, I don't move like that, and I don't behave like that, I don't act like that, I don't talk like that, I don't do that. So I'm letting you know now. I will let this slide because of how we are, of how you are. But we're communicating, and I'm letting you know. Next time you feel a certain type of way, know how to handle it. Because if this happens again, unfortunately, we can't be friends no more, because I don't tolerate that. I don't do that.
Yeah, that well, I respect that response because that's me. It's like I'm not just gonna drop you. I'm gonna have a conversation with you about your behavior. And if I see that the conversation has done nothing and you continue to put me in a place of being uncomfortable or being disrespected, then I know how to move there after.
That's right.
So I definitely feel you on that. I feel like boundaries is the biggest word in friendships, family. It don't matter at work. You just don't allow people because once you start allowing people to treat you any way they want, they will. You know, they will. They will go in, they will go off, and they will show you their true colors. But sometimes I let people do that because it lets me see you naturally for who you are. So I know how to navigate my emotions with you thereafter.
Yep.
So we're going to go into another quote. It says, I've learned three lessons this year: to leave people where they are, to accept situations for what they are, and not every action needs a reaction. So this ties into the last one. So how do you feel about that?
Ooh, three lessons. All right. So to leave people where they are. Um. Well, I can I can see it. Um. You don't really have control over people's lives, so there's not much you can do if they decide to, allow themselves to be, where they choose to be, no matter what's going on. Accept situations for what they are. Yeah, not every action needs a reaction. I just feel like, in my opinion, this could fall more within control, that you can't really control people. Like as an example, as someone that I know that gave me, they said, you can walk, you can take a horse to the river to drink water, but you can't, you know force them to drink it. You can only lead them to the water. So it's just something like that. Like, you can't really control people. You can't really control certain situations, and you know you just have, like, sometimes it's okay to just leave things probably just as is, than pouring more energy into it, because who knows, maybe giving it more attention could be worse than if you just leave it as is.
So do you think like ignoring the person will get the point across, or do you think having an open, honest conversation about their behavior? Because sometimes people to not deal with conflict, they'll ghost the person, ignore the calls, ignore the texts. But I tell people the only way I will ignore you if you're disrespecting me. If you're texting me, pick up the effing phone, or you always playing effing game. See, then I'm not just ignoring you. I'm setting a boundary that until you get yourself together, I'm not about to engage with you. How do you feel about that?
I guess with that, yeah, I mean, you don't want to bypass people's behavior. It is a conversation that should be caught early, and I guess you just figure out, you could, like you said, navigate as you go. But sometimes, people will never change. Situations probably won't ever change, or maybe certain things are above you. So even though, like, you try to put in energy, maybe in the long run, it wouldn't make a difference. So it's good to kind of like just sit back and kind of think things through to see, do I pour the energy or do I not? And if I do, if I don't, what would the outcome be?
Yeah. Cause like, don't get me wrong. If I have gotten to arguments with friends before, and we have got into it. But even when I have gotten into arguments with my friends, I've never called them out their names. I've never brought up anything personal. I never said, "Oh well, when this happened to you, da 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 da." You know what I mean? I'm a big person about staying on task, staying on subject. Now the issue is every time we go out on the weekend, I tell you to be ready at 8 and you show up at 8:45. That's disrespectful to my time. Now, I'm not gonna bring up how, oh, well, when you with Josh or Emily, you're always on time at 8 p.m. No, I'm gonna say, why are you treating me this way? Why are you always late and not getting respecting my time? So I'm big on staying on subject. What about you? Do you ever sometimes go off subject, or the conversation expands to something else versus what it's actually about?
Uh, yeah, yeah, that has happens. And I don't. it usually happens unconsciously. So I go ahead and I tend to kind of entertain, or I tend to explain, and it's something that I've been working on. Like recently, I had a conversation with someone that I know, and I will say things like, I've told the person, I said, uh, that's not the question I asked you. I asked you a yes or no question. And when they will speak a little bit more, I will say, that's not relevant. That's not relevant to my question. Let me restate the question, and yes or no, because it's, I feel, and again, like you do want to bring it back, because it's like, for some reason there are some people out there that do not really like to be proven wrong. So if I feel like I ask you a
Mm.
yes or no question and then you want to give a little backstory, okay. But when you're giving too much information to try to make it seem like you're right, but it's if it's branching too out, it's like, okay, now I gotta bring you in, because there's really no need to express too much information if the topic at hand doesn't require much. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't I mean, I don't remember the question, because it happened naturally as we were speaking, but it was just more of um yeah, more of just like a regular simple question, yes or no. So to kind of see, like, where, like, do you know the facts, or or is it your opinion? And if so, how we go moving forward, because you can't speak about a certain topic and say your opinion and then start stating facts. And then when I bring out my point of view, that my facts as well, you want to rebuttal my facts with your facts. So we got to find more of a middle ground. But I tell people, two things can be right at the same time. But just because, you can't say, well, I'm right and you're wrong for whatever reason. It's just, that to me leads to an argument, and that's just something that you got to navigate away from.
Yeah, so I definitely feel that, and I like the way you describe that, because it definitely makes sense. You definitely have to sit here and always bring it back to what it's about. So you always have to give yourself the grace to hear a person out, because maybe that's something they needed to get out however they felt. But we still need to get back to why we have an issue, because a lot of the times issues can get brushed to the side and then they keep coming back. And then you're wondering, like, why do we keep repeating the same behavior? But you don't realize that it's because the issue was never cleared up.
Uh, Yeah, so I like that question that you just brought up. Why are we repeating like these same behaviors? And a person, it tends to respond with trying to explain themselves. So I feel like it's good to ask, like, we can ask open-ended questions, but sometimes we have to ask yes or no questions. Like, you know, is there something that is being done that you don't like that make you behave this way? Yes or no? Well,
Mm-hmm.
see, you know, I just feel like the issue is I didn't ask that. I asked a yes or no question. And it's like, you gotta bring it back, because if you let it branch out, it's gonna branch out to so many branches, and it's like, uh-oh, what was he talking about again? And that should not happen if you're trying to come into a resolution. You know?
Okay.
You want a person to say, yes, there are things that you do that upset me. Okay, what are those things? Well, one example, I didn't ask for examples. Can you think something from the top of your head of something that I do that you don't like? And I feel like if you can't remember it, then the question is, why can't you remember it? Do I do too many things that may get upset you? So it's just it's a lot. It's a lot. And I feel like that's why it's good to approach situations and approach things like after it happens,
Mm-hmm.
so you don't wait until the bag gets really, really heavy to then dump everything in one shot. Because if you do, it's gonna be a whole spider web mess.
Yeah, because it just sounds, then it becomes an attack. Like, oh, you waited. You waited until you were mad to tell me this, and this is how you always felt. And that's where it could come out. It can come off as like, oh, you only saying this because you're mad. You really don't mean it. That's why I'm big on, when it happens, address it, because I'm not gonna address. That's like, if you owe me $5 and you never pay me back, and I'm throwing shots your way. And then when I'm mad, you owed me $5 last year and you didn't pay me back. No, bitch, I'm gonna bring up the fact that hey, remember last week you said you was gonna give me that $5 on Monday? It's Monday. It's 11 o'clock at night. It's Monday's about to be over. You know, like I'm big on addressing issues when they happen. That's in your relationships and your friendships and family. You have to address things when they happen, because I tell people I won't even take the issue as serious. Because if you was mad about me, that's something I did 5 months ago, and you tell me about it, I'm gonna look at you like, okay, that was 5 months ago. Why are you telling me now?
Unless it's convenient.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, unless it never bothered them, but now they want to bring it up for what?
Exactly. Are you bringing it up because you're mad, or are you bringing it up because it always was an underlying issues? See, a lot of people will be friends with you and low key be mad at you, or have issues with you and never address it. And then when it finally blows up, it's like, yo, where's this all coming from? You felt like this all this time. And if somebody was to do that to me, I'd be like, well, you the one with the problem, because if you had these issues all this time and never addressed it as an adult, that's your lack of communication, not mine. Even if I am in the wrong. I tell people I could be dead wrong. If you don't tell me, how do you expect me to fix it or address it?
Yep. And I like what you said. At the end of the day, you're a grown adult. I'm not your mother. I'm not your father. I'm not nobody to you. That it's your responsibility to handle things the way, the way I guess you see fit. But if you wait, that got nothing to do with me. Why all of a sudden I'm the villain?
Yeah, I agree. Because, like I said, even if I was in the wrong and you never said anything, that means you were okay with that behavior. That doesn't make it the behavior right, but it means that you accepted it. So the fact that maybe I did something that you don't like and I keep doing it, you allowed me to do that. So it's not, yeah, I may have been wrong, but you never addressed it. So now that all this time has went by, you have animosity about an issue that you never addressed.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes into another post from X. It says, acknowledge, apologize, and take accountability, change. Then let's talk. What do you think about that?
Can you
Come
repeat
on,
that one
wake
more?
up, Ammo. Wake up, wake up,
No,
wake
I'm
up,
I'm
wake
here.
up,
I'm
wake
here. Hold
up.
on. Can you can you repeat that one more time?
I got you. It says acknowledge, apologize, take accountability, change, then let's talk. Because it says, I don't like when people try to squeeze themselves back in your life without addressing the issue.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree with that. So but I would like for you to go first.
Okay, so I can easily talk about, I used to be real cool with a coworker of mine that we end up actually becoming friends. Real close, because we both were from New York. We both had moved down south. And there was an issue that happened that had nothing to do with me, but the person just kept attaching me to the issue. And, I will say that when they came back into my life almost a year and a half later, the reason why I actually allowed them to somewhat come back into my life, not the same way, we weren't as close, is because they addressed the issue. Like, they told me I was wrong for this behavior. So they actually acknowledged it, apologized, and I said, okay, I can move on with you, because we're not gonna brush that issue to the side. We're not gonna act like it didn't happen. The fact that they acknowledged it, they apologized, and they took accountability, I was like, okay, I can talk to you about it. I can respect it. That doesn't always mean that we're gonna be friends or we're gonna be cool again, but I can respect the person that addresses something that they know they did wrong, and they bring it to me instead of me having to keep saying, you hurt me or you did this wrong to me. I like when people come to me about what they did to me. Because if I'm the victim, why do I have to tell you what you did to me? You know what you did.
Yeah, I agree with that, and that is what somebody that I know, they're very big on that. They're very big on I don't have to, like you said, I don't have to explain what I have to say. Hey, what you did was wrong. But on the contrary, you know, I feel like there are times where you have to say, hold on, that wasn't cool. Because if you assume, because again, everybody comes from all different walks of life, have been raised differently, have been taught differently, have gone through different things. Um, or you may have someone that has continued to surround themselves with people that do not hold them accountable, that do not have them take responsibility, or have allowed them to do whatever they want to do and get comfortable with that. So I get there's certain situations where, it's like, yes, I don't have to tell you what you did was wrong, and what you did hurt me, but I feel like there are certain circumstances that you have to say, hey, we need to talk.
Yeah. No, and that's fair because sometimes people will be oblivious to their behavior. Some people will unconsciously do things and not really know, and you have to tell them. But it comes a point where it's just like, you're not gonna just smooth it over like, oh, good morning. How are you, Moses? How's everything? Oh, you're not gonna text me back or you're not gonna call me back? No, we need to, yes, good morning. Yeah, okay. But no, let's address the issue that we had yesterday. Or that we didn't finish, or that, you know what I mean? Like, we're not gonna smooth that over and like the next day, like everything's all good. Or like I've had issues where I won't talk to me and a friend won't talk for a few days and then they'll hit me up like everything's cool. No, bitch, we're gonna get back to what happened 4 days ago. And then if we can have a good positive conversation with respectful communication, then we can go on to good morning. Oh, how's your day? We're not gonna just slide into good morning, how's your day when you was just shitting on me just 2 days ago.
Right, I agree. And it brings me to an example, right? Like, let's say, um you and your close friend, and let's say, like, life changes, you go through different things, and now, like, all of a sudden you sense a different vibe of your friend. Oh, now the friend doesn't really call me anymore, doesn't really text me anymore. I wonder what's going on. And I feel like it's things like that, that it's like, you don't want to be quick to blame them and saying, oh, I'm big on behavior, or I'm big on patterns, and a big pattern change. You used to FaceTime me, now you only regular call me. I don't like that. What's going on? And other things, like, let's say, oh, whenever you in our space, like when we're together, you don't seem to socialize with me much, but you socialize with other people. And it's I mean, yes, we are quick to blame other people and say, oh, you know what, they probably mad at me, they probably upset at me, blah 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 blah. And I don't know, sometimes people could be going through different things, different phases, and that's why and that could be a moment where you would want to communicate and bring them to the side and say, hey, you okay? And then I know someone else that doesn't like to do that confrontation, to say, hey, you okay? Because they strongly believe you know what you're doing, and you know how you're doing it. So why am I gonna approach you about what you're doing when you know what you're doing? All right, I see how it is. And I feel like that can be a little immature, because you're quick to assume, based off a change of behavior, change of pattern, but ultimately you don't really know. So it's I guess this is another situation, or another example of how it goes down to the type of person you're dealing with, the type of dynamic the friendship is going on, and the situation at hand. It could be maybe something in the moment, a change of job, or you lost your job, or or you're single now. It could just be a lot of things that can alter how a person behaves based off multiple factors.
I definitely understand. So, like, do you feel like uncomfortable conversations solve issues versus just brushing them over? Because I feel like hard conversations sometimes get to the root and pick the root from it picks the root out the dirt so that the issue doesn't continue.
So, well, and that's perfect, because it leads us to the next X quote, where someone posts saying, hit me with the harshest reality truth, and then the person responds by saying, uncomfortable conversations get things solved.
I agree.
And with your, and I agree as well. I feel like yeah, I feel like it is more or less like those conversations is coming more with like with things that are happening under the surface. Like more of the surface is more like small talk, more, things here and there. But uncomfortable conversations could be more of how you make me feel, how I make you feel, how you're moving, how you text me, how you call me, the form of which you do, the time at which you do, how long it takes you to respond, and X, Y, Z, if that's something that people care about. But we got to include that because, as I'm saying, like, there are friendship dynamics out there that the text is consistent. There are friendships out there that the text is once a week, once a month. So it's, again, it still goes down to different factors that play in, but ultimately, comfortable conversations sometimes need to be had. And again, another example that I had on Saturday that I brought up, my a childhood friend of my mom's, her daughter was very close to twins, twin sisters, and they grew up with each other. And they were cool to a certain time where, the daughter was like, we call her Stephanie. So until Stephanie was like, you know what? I wanna start making money. I wanna start, to make enough money to move on my own. Um, and then she ended up finding someone. They became husband and wife. They got married. He got into the military. He was stationed overseas. She went with him. She got pregnant, and the rest is history. How she ended up choosing the mature life, the mom life, and just just grew
Mm.
up. And she explained to me how that dynamic changed completely, basically permanently, of how things were with the twins, and how it started to become distant, where the twins wouldn't really text her anymore, call her anymore, want to hang out anymore, don't really invite her to events anymore. And she told me that even with however many kids that they have now, you know, she was never really invited to the birthdays or events like that. And I asked her, did you speak to them? Did you have a talk with them? And she said, no, we haven't, but it's okay. It doesn't bother me. And I think that's a lie. I I've I mean, she could be right, but even if you feel like, oh, I'm okay with that, I don't think you are. Because I think if there was an opportunity for you guys to come back together, you will take it. So the fact that you will take it with the quickness, that means you miss it, you want it. But it also means you just accepted what is. And I don't think we should do that. I think if we care, we should be the ones to speak up. She says she believes that the dynamic was changed when she moved overseas to start the life with her husband. And even so, it's still a conversation. Hey guys, just checking up on y'all. Is everything okay? Y'all don't really text anymore. Y'all don't really reach out anymore. Everything's good. Oh yeah, we good. And it's so much that you can initiate until you say, okay, at least I tried. I tried to speak to her. And I mean, you should assume that people are gonna be like, yeah, I'm good, everything is fine. But then it's up to you to say, are you sure about that? Because you don't invite me to your friends' parties anymore, like your friends or your children, like baby showers, birthday events, or whatever the case may be. I feel like there has to become a time where you have to start holding them accountable, and saying, you know, we are close, and for you not to invite me to like your first child birthday party or your baby shower or whatever the case is, I don't like that. Like you're not gonna say I don't like that, but it's like it's certain things that you're like, wait a minute, that don't sound right. And if you want to question them about it, you can. Like, hey, was did you send out invitations? Because I didn't get one. Or however you want to communicate and see where that goes, and see if they're gonna bullshit you or tell you the truth. And sometimes you want to reach out and say, hey, like reach out the nicest way possible. And sometimes that's when the uncomfortable conversation comes in, where you just go straight to the point and say, hey, I kind of want to talk to you and your sister, because like we were like best friends, but then ever since I left to be with my husband and start a life, all of a sudden y'all changed. I don't hear from y'all don't reach out, y'all don't call me, text me. I see y'all on Facebook, I be doing birthdays and all these events, I don't get an invite. And I feel like as close as we are, as best friends, as best cousins as we are, I don't think that's okay. If you want to say that part, however you communicate it is however
Okay.
you want to communicate.
I definitely can see that. I could definitely see that perspective and why you would say that. And but that's the thing is sometimes let people let so much time go by. And what happens is when that time goes by, the issue just gets pushed to the side or pushed backwards, and then that awkward silence starts to happen. Then that uncomfortable silence starts to happen where it's just like, is it worth it? Or we ain't talked in a long time. But like I've been that person where I've I've cared for
Mm-hmm.
somebody like that I stopped fucking with, and I have like reached out and said, "Hey, even if we don't talk, I just want to let you know I was thinking about you." Because sometimes you do think like there's people in my life that I have like nothing bad happened. Life just directed us in different ways. I had like one of my close friends. Well, not, he ain't my close friend no more, but one of my friends that I was real close with, and they're a party animal, which is cool. That's their business. But it was the violence that they always had going on around them. And I was like, listen, I'm a grown man with my own family. I can't be doing this, what you doing. And the violence is what made me push myself away from it. It's not necessarily like they did something to me, but the way they were living their life. And when I was around it, I said, "Ooh, I don't like this because this could possibly affect me." you know, or this could possibly affect. I'll be out with you, and next thing I know, you fighting, and I'm not gonna let nobody just jump on you like just a whole bunch of people jumping on you. So what does that do? That puts me in a situation, you know. So if I feel like you're a person that's always putting me in a negative or a toxic situation, and I may separate myself, I even try to tell them like, hey, when you be doing all that, I don't like that. And if they could, and they continue to do it. So for years, I had separated myself from them. And then when they calmed down, I started talking to them again. But I told them why. I said, "Listen, that violence and fighting and all that, I
Right.
don't I don't do that."
Yeah. So my question to you would be how well, I like that you brought up that time passed by because yes, if if you moved to England and you had a kid and all this stuff happened and then they had multiple kids and they grew up, that uncomfortable conversation gonna be like, girl, you waited how many years? Ugh, like and
Yeah,
you gonna look
versus if she
crazy because
addressed it
why
when it was
now?
happening and nothing
Why
changed.
now? Unless now I'm not saying it's impossible because now I mean, I don't, could you play it off like maybe you would text them and say, "Hey, I'm around the city, or I'm down for the weekend. Maybe we can grab lunch this weekend. Maybe we could grab some breakfast and see if you could catch them in person." So when you catch them and isolate them in person, that's when you hit it and say, "Oh my God, I missed ya. I loved ya. Oh my God, we had so many great memories. I wonder why that stopped. Like, was it me or was you? I don't know. Like I felt like, well, we kind of got a little distant, and I feel like if you know how to speak and you have a way with words, you can kind of flow your way in to kind of get them to review, how things have played out and what were big factors on
Mhm.
how things played out the way it did. So yeah, so my question would just be how would you handle that conversation that you had a best friend like when you were like 20 years old, and then you go ahead and live your life, and then like 7 years later, 27, you're just like, or maybe 30, you're just like, oh, I miss us, and I wonder why we stopped talking, and I would like to find out
Well, it
because
depends because
I still want
sometimes
us to be cool
I, I
peoples.
I could tell you honestly, I have forgotten sometimes why I've had issues with people. You know what I mean? Because life happens. You live your life, you work a job, you make new friends, you get married, whatever. Children, all those things, right? Going back to your friend situation, it's like all the life happens, and sometimes I could say like, you know what, it wasn't. And now that I'm older, you know what, that wasn't as big of an issue as I thought it was. Or I may say, no, that was a major issue, and I see why I don't fuck with you. Like it could be both. You know what I mean? Because there's things like I said recently, even with that one friend, I said the issue now that I'm older, I'm like, the issue wasn't even that serious. You know what I mean? Like it was something that I can now say that I know how to move myself and I know how to step away from situations that may occur that make me uncomfortable versus when I was younger, not my early 20s. I would say when I was a teenager, I didn't really like getting into conflict because I'm not gonna lie, I had a temper and I was just like, I'm gonna cuss your ass out. You know what I mean? Like I didn't always have the communication skills. But as you get older, or just life happens, not even with age, you learn how to communicate in a different way. So for me, I would say that with time, sometimes that does heal a situation. Or sometimes it may make you realize that you did the right thing. Yeah, so we're gonna wrap this episode, y'all, and then we're gonna catch into part two. So make sure you guys subscribe to No Love
Yeah.
Laws 2.0. It's
I feel
exactly
that.
how it
I feel
sounds.
that.
No Love Laws
So
2.0.
yeah,
You can
you
listen
want to
to
move on to
this
the next
episode
one?
and all episodes, and we're in our fourth season, by the way, you guys, on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music, as well as YouTube. I always say that because I love when Oprah said that. And I got my boy Moses, so he will be doing part two. So just give him a shout out, Mo. All right, y'all. So make sure y'all subscribe and don't forget it's one. Say it, Mo.
Yep. Me in here. One love.